Hi, this is Adam L.A.O. Berkowitz from Israel 365 News, coming at you live from the Golan. I have a special guest today, Gedaliah Blum. He's working hard to bring the Geulah, to bring the final redemption. His organization, First Fruits, is what I would call practically bringing the Geulah in a practical way. I was reading through it. What amazes me is that he is the anti-BDS. If you have a problem with the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement, which is just straight up anti-Semitism, that's calling for the ethnic cleansing of Jews from Judea and Samaria, from the biblical heartland, he's working hard to do precisely the opposite of BDS. And that's why I love what he does. So, Gedaliah, it's great to have you with us. Could you explain us a little bit about how you got the idea to start up your organization?
Yeah, so actually, I'm actually sitting here in the offices in Eli, our offices of Dapei Atom, which are the orange pages, which were actually birthed 12 years ago in response to BDS. BDS was targeting our businesses, targeting our communities. They weren't really targeting our businesses. They were really targeting our communities, like you were saying, looking to ethnically cleanse the Jewish people from our ancestral homeland. And so the way they did that, the way that they aimed to do that, was to choke us economically and to really put their foot on our neck and get all the jihadis and all the anti-Semites together and march under one banner and BDS Israel and spread lies and for people throughout the world not to buy from Judea and Samaria.
I got to tell you, I got to tell you, I'm actually a fan of BDS. I love it. Why? Because all these people, they come at you, they speak so nice, they're so sweet, and they're actually, if they weren't speaking so nice, they'd be wearing, black uniforms and jackboots, and they just come right out and say that they're Nazis. BDS is absolutely anti-Semitic. They do not sanction or boycott any Christian-owned or Arab-owned businesses. They are only focusing on Jews, and frequently they bleed over into the areas of Israel that aren't contested or by anyone. So they are straight up anti-Semitic.
Well, you know what they say also? They say that it's a nonviolent initiative. In fact, looking to destroy a part of somebody's land or removing them is anything but nonviolent. But I'll say this. I'll say that the BDS movement is part of a larger strategy to destroy Israel, and it's a tactic. We saw this during the first and second Aliyah to Israel. The Arab mobs, before there was any nationalism, would be targeting Jews. When Israel declared a state, as we know, there's the War of Independence. We had to fight for our own existence from the surrounding armies in the area. And when we kept winning, and we kept surviving, and they turned from war, they turned their soldiers into children suicide bombers, into rock throwers, they just can't beat us. They just weren't able to actually fulfill their mission in destroying the Jewish people. So after the failure of the second Intifada, the second uprising, was actually the time when BDS was birthed. They had their back against the wall and said, what are we going to do? We can't beat them through uprisings. Our people are suffering for it. And so we need to find a different initiative. We need to find a global initiative. Let's go after the Jews' business. Let's go after their money. And so that's where it is. So it's not a nonviolent initiative. It's a very violent initiative, but it's a different tactic. Amongst the whole bag full of treats that our enemies have tried to deliver to us. So
it's actually, I also saw that that when during the Intifadas, the Arab economy suffered. The Arabs in Israel suffered for clear and obvious reasons. It's not that they don't want Jews to earn a living. They don't want anyone to live. If it means that all of the Palestinians would suffer, because a lot of these businesses, I just bought a SodaStream machine. I love that SodaStream machine. SodaStream employs Arabs who love to work for them because they pay them decently, they take care of them. There's no suffering there. So why would you want to close those businesses down? So the more the Jewish-owned businesses flourish in Judea and Samaria, that'll also help the Arabs, and it'll help Arab-owned businesses as well.
Well, it depends on what you're saying. I mean, it depends on what you're saying is helpful to the Arabs. If you're talking about the leadership, it's not helpful, because the leadership has an agenda, which is to constantly be in a state of conflict in order that they're able to play victim, draw money from international aid, and then siphon it off into their Swiss bank accounts while their people are suffering. And as we know, in the Middle East, everybody thinks that the wars of the Middle East are focused here in Israel. The fact is, a very small percentage of the deaths throughout the last 100 years have occurred actually in battles between Jews and Arabs. The overwhelming majority of violence is done between Arab and Arab. And so to think that the Arab leadership for a second thinks, cares about their own people, knowing how their culture is, it's a fallacy. And
something we learned from Donald Trump is that if you want peace in the region, if you want peace in general, the best way to do it is let's make business. Let's do business. And we've seen that as soon as you start doing business with the other Arab countries who are reasonable and who aren't seeking the demise of Western culture, all of a sudden things become very clear and very simple and very calm. And that's what we're trying to do. Just through coexistence. The Palestinians and the Palestinian leadership, as you rightly pointed out, it's not the people. The Palestinian leadership object to coexistence. Coexistence is wake up, go to your job, feed your family, get your kids through school, and that means doing business on a daily basis. And I think that's what you're not anti-Arab in any way that I can see, just by promoting business. You're actually just you're promoting coexistence.
We believe in the Ronald Reagan peace through strength doctrine, which when you give a weapon to a criminal, he's going to use it against other people. When you give that same weapon to law enforcement, then you're safe. And so we could look at whose leadership actually has the rule of law, which people live with the most civil liberties, the most freedoms, and the least tyranny. There's obviously right now we're living under COVID, and there is a level of tyranny happening where people don't have their freedoms. But obviously this is a special case. But in normal circumstances, under the Palestinian Authority, they live in fear. Their own people are being tortured. They're being kidnapped in the middle of the night and being tortured in these dark dungeon prisons for actually cooperating with Jews.
Tell me how Dapé Katom works. It sounds like a great idea to just build up the businesses, make the it used to be, in biblical terms, it was every man under his grapevine and fig trees. That's in the biblical language. What's it in a modern day language for you? The orange pages.
So we call it economic Zionism, right? People love to be Zionists. Zion is come back to our homeland. Zion is Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, but it also Jerusalem is the capital of our ancestral homeland. It was the center of our world between Judea and Samaria, the kingdoms. And economic Zionism is reestablishing the Jewish people back in our ancestral homeland through economics, meaning it's the small family-run business owners who are responsible, generally speaking, for about 50 to 70% job growth in any society. And so just like the BDS knew to go after these same exact businesses because they knew it would weaken us, we need to also recognize and learn from the BDS and say, you know what? We also need to target these businesses. We need to unite together just like BDS did, but we're much stronger. And you know what? We're a silent majority of people who never had a call to action to actualize our support for Judea and Samaria besides maybe coming here, which is great. You know, we love tourism, but most people aren't coming here every day. Most people are coming here every year, every 10 years. Most people haven't even been here at all. So how could people connect with Judea and Samaria in a real and practical and impactful way that has both short-term and long-term impact? And that's where we evolved and grew Dape Gatom, which was always this local initiative in Hebrew, just buy local campaign. We opened the doors to the rest of the world through First Fruits for people to actually invest in the infrastructure to build and to strengthen these small business owners within Judea and Samaria. And so specifically, let me just give an example. People are contributing $100 a month from their First Fruits into a business that, let's say, there's a farmer who doesn't have an e-commerce website, and so this $100 is matched by the $100 of the business, and we build them e-commerce websites. We build them normal websites. We do rebranding. We do everything that small business owners need today in 2021 that might seem a little like mundane, but they're very important, especially now that we're seeing right now during COVID, where the government is forcing us to close our physical doors, and it's only those who are able to keep their virtual doors open are they able to even scrape by and maybe survive. But most businesses,
and they're great businesses.
What's that?
They're great businesses. They know how to do what they do, but they don't know how to flourish in a modern marketplace. It's really a skill.
It's not just not knowing, but it's not having the resources, not having the partner. And that's what First Fruits is. First Fruits is their partner. We are not just a conduit to match people up with different businesses, but we're also there for them to lean on and support, and we build their technologies, and we do all these different things. But I want to make something clear. It's not just $100 a month kind of a program. A lot of people are contributing $9 a month, $25 a month, every single month. And that enables us to continue to grow our team, support our operations, scale this program to include thousands of businesses. Hopefully in the next year or two, we're going to be able to get to that level. So this is probably the fastest growing, most impactful initiative that is happening on the ground within Judea and Samaria.
Do you actually market products?
Not yet. I'll tell you what, as we start growing and we start building more e-commerce websites, we do want to host a number of products to be sold through our First Fruits website. But the point also is that we want them to sell themselves. We're not looking to be we're not looking for them to lean on too much. We're looking to build economic independence, and that means that we want to maybe even create an online mall where people throughout the world could go and say, okay, I'm looking for gifts, and here's all of the stores online that I could buy from Israel, from Judea and Samaria, that would ship to America, ship to Australia, New Zealand, wherever they may be sitting. And so that's something that we haven't really decided yet, but there's a lot of opportunities of when you're bringing thousands of businesses together, there's a tremendous amount of opportunities about where we could go with it. And so
absolutely. And also this is the time. I saw how in Dubai, the Dubai supermarkets are going crazy for Israeli produce. Because it's beautiful produce. People don't understand that. Israeli farmers, they have got it together. We're producing, Israel started out with the Jaffa oranges, which was our thing. But very quickly, for example, the wine industry in Israel, oh my goodness. You don't even have to say, oh, it's kosher wine. It's by any standards, it's amazing. We're producing things that you find. And generally, the things that require more savvy, more culture, intelligence, we tend to excel in those things, not just high tech, but a lot of that is also in farming. So the markets are opening up like crazy. The nearby markets, Dubai, Bahrain, Sudan. Pretty soon, Saudi Arabia, I think, is going to open up to Israel, and then they're going to be pounding down the doors of the Israeli farmers, the Israeli businessmen. So give me some examples of other businesses that you're helping.
Well, it's interesting that you said a farmer, because we're actually just producing a video that's going to be released hopefully in the next couple of days in Hebrew, where we went to Ish Kodesh and we met with a gentleman named Yitzchak, who has a company called Blessings in the Land, and what he does is he's like an aggregate of produce from all throughout Israel. And he does delivery. And he says, he was actually saying this as well, what you were just you were touching upon, is that Israel is the size of New Jersey. People don't realize sometimes how small Israel is according to how much we hear about it in the news. But it's a very small country. But the diversity of land is so striking. You can't drive more than a half hour before you're in a completely different place. It's like you're driving from the Appalachian Mountains, and all of a sudden you drive a half hour, and now you're in you're in the desert, and that's exactly how it is. And so it's really nice that we actually built their website, and we're part of watching them grow. And not only are they growing as a business, but there's a lot of businesses within Judea and Samaria that it's part of the core of the people, that if you're the type of person who's going to live in Judea and Samaria, there's something about you that's you're not just looking for the quality of life. You're not looking for the good things in life only, although we are blessed by living here. But you're looking for like a mission, a job. You have a purpose. And so we integrate that purpose in everything that we do. And this farmer, Yitzchak, part of his business model is to feed families that are not able to afford to feed their children. And so what he does is, for every single shekel that goes in, part of it's cut off, and then it goes to build these, put together these baskets of produce and eggs and all these different things, these staples that families need. And it's sent off to the community rabbi, and it's dispersed in secret. He doesn't even know who he's giving it to. So,
which is really the Torah way to do it.
It's absolutely beautiful. And he's, the people who work for him, they're working all night, all day, all night. So there's different shifts. People who are working the night shifts because they have to, whatever, they have to be with their children, or there's girls who do their Shirut Leumi, their national service. They need some extra side money, or the guys that working in yeshiva. But these are the types of people that we're working with, and of course they're so diverse. I mean, everybody is so different, but there's connective tissue. Is that we're here with purpose. So when people invest in these business owners, when they invest in Judea and Samaria, they're not only investing in a business, they're not only investing in a family, they're investing in purpose, and it's our shared purpose. And I know Israel 365, the audience, there's a large Christian audience here. That's what connects you to us. That's what connects you to the land of Israel. It's our shared purpose in life is to reestablish the land of the Bible for the Jewish people. The Bible comes back to life. I mean, we see this every day when we dig up, or the archaeologists dig up, or we go outside and we go on a hike, and we learn something new about something that was so old, and everything just jumps off the pages. And I think that's what ties all of us together. And that's why First Fruits has been doing really, really well. I think it's been speaking to people in a deep way.
Funny, you mentioned Yitzchak, who is working out of a small community called Ish Kodesh. I think that's another aspect that shows why we're here, the importance of why we're here, and what we're exactly doing. The community of Aish Kodesh was established and named after a young man who I actually knew, who was a friend of mine. His name was Aish Kodesh Gilmore. He was from a community called Mavo Modim, which was established by Rabbi Shlomo Karlibach. I'm good friends with his father, and he was murdered in the year 2000. He was shot and killed when he was working as a security guard in Jerusalem in Bituach Leumi. He left behind a wife and I believe a daughter. That was 20 years ago, and now they established a community in his name. And I think that says so much about what you're doing, what we're doing. There's every single Jew who lives in these areas that are being targeted by BDS. They try to make it seem as if we're living there to bring suffering into the world, but in reality, this is our reaction to violence and anger in the world, is to bring growth, to bring life into the world. And this is a classic example of the community of Eish Kodesh now being a site for charity and for literally growing food.
And you know what? And you touched upon that, because the what's going on here in Israel as a whole, and specifically in Judea and Samaria, is probably one of the most beautiful stories that's ever written in modern history. I mean, the story of the Jewish people coming back after 2,000 years. I know we all hear it and we all say it and everything. And you know what? At the end of the day, I speak to a lot of people throughout the world, especially through my work, through social media, and people connect so much. And I'm sure this is with the audience from 365, that 365 and many other people, is really initiatives. They open up a window into a world of purpose, not only of our purpose, what's going on, but their purpose as well. And it's so striking what's going on in the world today, politically, socially, economically, everything, is that people are losing purpose. Culturally, people are losing purpose all around them. And I'm hearing people come to me all the time and saying, I want to be part of this. I need to be part of this. Throughout the whole entire world, there's nothing for you to do than to come and be part of something in Judea and Samaria. Like that's the situation that we have today in the world, and that's even more so why they say that the Jewish people are going to be the light upon the nations. We're more like a mirror. We're not like a flashlight. We're more like a mirror, but we're concentrated here. And all the people that want to have part of this purpose is going to connect, and the light is going to just come out throughout the whole world. And that's where I see that there's such a contrast and why so many people throughout the world are connecting to certain things that we're doing. I don't know if you see that yourself.
I actually, not only do I see it, Josh, if you can put up the photo, this is the photo of Aish Kodesh. Aish Kodesh, 20 years ago, was, as I said, killed by an Arab terrorist while he was going to work, trying to support his wife and infant daughter. And that's Aish was in his young 20s. He was in his young 20s, not so just out of the army. He came from a religious community. He was named for a very holy book. Aish Kodesh means the holy fire, which was written by a rabbi who did not live through the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, Rav Kalonimus Kalman Shapira. And I remember he was very proud of his name. He absolutely insisted. He didn't like any nicknames. He didn't like being called Aish or Kodesh. He insisted that everyone call him Aish Kodesh. He was just that kind of guy. And I think what you're touching on is nowadays we're living through a period where the world has become polarized. And you really have to go. It's not sufficient. It's not even okay to sit back and not identify. You have to identify, or you're going to, by default, go to the wrong side. And you have to. The question is, what do you identify with? Do you identify with the people who killed him, or do you identify with the community that's trying to create life in reaction, in response to that young man being taken away from his family and his parents? Um, and if you believe in Israel growing as just as the prophecies said Israel would, in the land flourishing, you have to identify with it in some way, in some active way, whether it's okay. There's Josh saying, Rabbi Abatak, we see this from the Sanhedrin. There's no greater sign of redemption than the agricultural reblooming of the land of Israel. And you can be a part of that. That's the
Well, you know what?
redemption.
Let me just cut in for a second, because I think it's really important that we keep going back to the prophets. Everybody keeps quoting the prophets. The prophet said that the Jewish people are going to come back. We're going to return to our land, and you know what? Okay, let's write the next book now. Let's write the next chapter, because the prophets it's already happening. It's happening today. Okay. So now the point is this: you have thousands of people who follow Israel 365. You're very much involved in Israel, and you understand, and you're yearning for the prophet's word to come true. Guess what? It comes true already. But our time is now. We're not going to live in the past anymore. We're not going to live in the future anymore, per se. We can live right now in the present, because we were all born in the most amazing time in biblical history. Besides the time, of course, when Moshe went through the splitting of the sea, that would have been a better time to live through than now. But while we are here now, this is our time. This is not something that, this is our time to pick up the pen and to write the history of those that are going to follow us in 100 or thousands of years to follow. And this is the time that we have to stand up and say, you know what? We need to continue the story. Because we read the prophets already. We knew they're coming back. Great, we're back now. It happened. Now what? And now we need to write the sequel. And I think that's the most important aspect of first fruits, because that's exactly what it is. We're not here to just quantify the words of the prophet that, look, they came true. Here we are. No, we're here to say, okay, now we're going to put that book aside. We're going to open up our own binder, a clear one. We're going to pick up our own pen, and we're going to now write the story. And this is a story that we're not writing alone. This is a story that First Fruits is passing pens out throughout the whole world. All you need to do is pick it up. And we're connecting you to this story. We're connecting you not as a spectator, but as someone who's taking action and actually doing it. So you could tell your children every single month, oh, you see this credit card statement? All of these things I'm not very happy about, but this one, this is what's going to bring complete redemption. This is what's going to bring peace, real peace in the Middle East, when the Jewish people are so strong that all of their enemies have no other way than to give in and say, okay, I'll live in your society, I'll live in peace, I'll live with rule of law, and I'll live with respect. And I think that's the point. That's the whole point of what I think we're here today on this earth, in this day, in this time. It's a gift. It's a gift, and we shouldn't waste it.
100 years ago, 100 years ago, what am I saying? Before 1967, this opportunity didn't even exist. It was just not there. And now we're not, and after that it was survival. And now we're talking about actually flourishing, just like the prophet said, as a sign of redemption. Gedaliah, I hate to cut this short. I could talk about prophecy, flourishing, Yehuda and Shomron all day. We're going to have you back. I have a challenge for you. I want you to Next time we speak, I want you to tell me about one of your success stories, one of your projects, one of the 3,000 companies that is flourishing and bringing the prophecy to light.
Amazing. We'll do. We'll do.
Okay, that's your challenge. That's your homework. Okay, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. I'm in the Golan. Gedaliah is in Eli in the Shomron in Samaria. And our blessings are going out to all of you. You bless us, we'll bless you. That's the way it works. Thank you all for joining us. Be blessed. Have a great day.